Blessings, BookTube. This is a tag. Congratulations to Suey's Book Banter for 3 years on BookTube. She's created this tag to commemorate it, and it works in groups of threes. 3 groups of 3 questions is 9, plus a bonus makes 10. I was tagged by Mariandrea. Thank you for thinking of me. And these are fun questions. Let's get to them. So question number 1 is this is a set of 3 questions about books and reading. Number 1 is, what are your 3 favorite genres? Well, in poetry, much as I love the lyric, tankas, ghazals, I must pick the epic. For prose, as much as I love surrealism, magical realism, fantasy, I must go with the picaresque. And for theater, as much as I love farce, panto, commedia dell'arte, comedies of manners, I'm going to go with the theater of the absurd. So epic, picaresque, and theater of the absurd are 3 favorite genres. Number 2, what are your 3 auto-buy authors? I don't have auto-buy authors because even my favorite authors, I don't even think, there might be 1 or 2 authors on the planet that haven't had a bad book, but it's, any author can have a bad book, so I don't auto-buy anybody. I choose book first and author second. But I would probably buy almost everything by comic strips because they're always good to have. And they can be reread and reread and reread, whereas I rarely reread any other kinds of books. So for this, I'm picking Calvin and Hobbes, Dilbert, and The Far Side. Okay, 3 would be, what 3 books do you recommend the most? For some reason, my mind here went to a weird place. So rather than picking just sort of fiction books or whatever, I'm curating a sort of space for you to have a certain sort of experience. So the first is poetry. It's called News of the Universe by Robert Bly, about double conscious poetry. He's working against this Alexander Pope idea that man is the measure of all things, and he's really communing with the beyond man, humans. So that is an amazing compilation that he put together, and there's every kind of poet in there from the ages. And then the next is Intro to Yoga book. They're probably better books, more contemporary books than these, but these are the ones that I used in my mud hut in Africa when I was most centered and happy in my life. So I used Richard Hittleman's Introduction to Yoga book, so I can recommend that one. So doing your yoga, listening to your poetry, and then the stars, staring at the stars. So the star book that I recommend is called The Stars, A New Way to See Them. And I'm sure there are newer ones, but it's really good in the way that it breaks down the constellations into really simple shapes, not those elaborate pictures that are so pretty, but hard to picture in the sky. And I kind of reversed my way into them in that I slept every night under the Saharan stars, so I got quite familiar with the starscape. And it was only then that I went to the book to try to identify, what was that backwards question mark? Oh, that was the Leo. So if that helps you at all, that's how I finally figured out how to identify some of the stars in the sky. Okay, now, next is our second set of 3 questions. 3 questions about booktubing. Number 4 says, what is your favorite book from each year for the past 3 years? Unfortunately, I don't read new releases, so it's unlikely that I will have read 3 books in the last 3 years. That is to say that have been published in the last 3 years. So I thought, should I go back to 95 or should I go back to 75 when I was born, the year I was in the first years when I was born, and then I thought, I'll do 95, 85, and 75. So in 1995, I read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, believe it or not, by John Gray. This because I was in Peace Corps, and at that time we had a lot of books circulating among the volunteers that weren't necessarily books I would have chosen for myself. But this one was very popular among volunteers, are majority female. So the ladies liked this book a lot, and we would endlessly discuss, men and women stuff, and how we are. There was also a book around at that time called Goddesses in Every Woman. And I remember they came out with a guy's version called Gods in Every Man. I remember because Sonia said I reminded her of Hephaestus, who I had not heard of. I knew him as Vulcan. And I said, oh, Hephaestus, where is he? She said, oh, the lame god of the forge. She could have said, oh, married to Aphrodite, but no, I was the lame god of the forge. Okay, and so that's 95. 1985, it's The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. Now, this is case studies. He's a neurologist. He worked famously with the woman who redesigned slaughterhouses to be more humane. She's an autistic lady, and they did a movie about her. He also worked with Awakenings, that whole Robin Williams movie, but that's not one of the ones in this book. But the autistic lady with the animal bond was in this one. And just guys with perfect recall, guys with, the brain possibilities that we have, that every human has, and that we mostly give up for social functioning. If we didn't put our brain towards that, the things that our brain can do is really astonishing. This book changed my whole thinking about human potentiality and the brain. And so 75, I don't know why I chose to do all non-fiction for this one, but I guess I've been doing so many fiction recommendations lately. I'm trying to branch out a little bit. So 75, I chose Far Tortuga, which is one of the books by Peter Mathiasson, who's an amazing traveling naturalist and bird guy. And I heard him speak in Austin. Would it have been? No, I would have been 4 years old at the time. But I heard him speak in Austin when I moved back to Austin in my 20s to do AmeriCorps there. But yeah, he's an amazing speaker, and I can recommend any of his books. Snow Leopard is his most famous, but anyway, he's an amazing writer. So those are three favorite books from the past 3 decades, in my case. Now 5 is, what are 3 things you've learned from BookTubing? Well, I've learned so much, but for some reason, I was gathering all the different new genres anyway, I guess for the genre question. So I was like, oh, let's talk about the new genres I've learned of. So I've learned of some interesting new genres. Historical slipstream is one that I want to read. A lot of them are not interesting to me, like Furry Sleuth or I don't know what, all the dystopian ones and things like that don't interest me. But I would read Solar or Hope Punk Noir. I'd read that, and a Lucid or Mytho Procedural. That would be fun as well. Dreams or myths. So some fun new genres to check out there. 6 is, what are 3 goals you have for the next year on BookTubing? On BookTube. Well, I'm going to blow your mind because I'm going to choose technical ones. I know all of you are like, what? It's not that I don't care about technical stuff, but it's that I want to keep as I keep this out of politics, out of academia, in every way I try to protect this as a fun space for me, right? So tech stuff is not so fun for me. It's a bit more work. So I want it to be, 90, 95, 99% the fun stuff, which for me is the book stuff, and then a little bit of tech. But I'm going to invest a little time in this next year. If I keep this going another year, we'll see. With tech, I'd like to learn how to do interviews where I can record, somebody somewhere and me in Thailand interviewing. I'd like to learn how to do a split screen so I could do like the skits where I talk to myself, like some people do. Those look fun. I'd like to learn how to do the box in window thing so I could have a slideshow going and have my little head down there talking about it. So those are three things I'd like to learn how to do technologically to offer you some different kinds of content. Our next three sets of questions and last are the three random for fun questions. 7 says, what are 3 fictional worlds you'd like to visit? Keeping with the comic books, I reserved Bloom County for this question. I almost put them for the other one, but I thought, oh, Bloom County, I'd love to live there. Discworld, of course. And then the sort of Sangha or, monastery community of Pilgrim Caminata, which is by Jellerup. It's about early Buddhist community. I tried to find stuff for like intentional communities, ashrams, things like that. And I know I read a great book about a guy who kind of moves into a squat and then sort of ends up in a commune, I think in Montreal. But I couldn't find that book, so I couldn't remember the title either. So number 8 says, what are 3 ships you'll always root for? Aha, testing me. Do I know what ships mean? Well, I do. You mean relationships. Ha ha. So the new slang that is based on shortening things, I do tend to remember. So for these, I thought, I should look at different kinds of relationships than, for me, my mind would first go naturally to man and woman. I thought, oh, do some different kinds. So my first, sticking with the comic books, is come on, Peppermint Patty, give Marcy a break. She called you, sir. She loves you. Peppermint Patty and Marcy should get together. May they be happy, bless them. Then for guys, I thought maybe Sancho and Don Quixote. I just like that because it's a relationship that is, between a larger man and an older man. So very much in the vein of like sort of life term partnership stuff and not just sort of pretty, beautiful people getting together, vile body stuff. So Sancho and Don Quixote taking care of each other in their dotage. And then for a sort of like polyamorous deal, I thought of the Another Roadside Attraction by Tom Robbins, the book in which Marx Marvelous is sort of hanging around with this semi-open couple, Amanda and John, the Zillers, who have this roadside circus. Well, I don't know what to call it. And there's a baboon involved. It's crazy. But so poor Marx is sort of always pining there on the edge of that whole scene. I'd love to see them integrate that whole thing somehow. And so everyone's needs get met. Love needs. So that's for the polyamory. 9, name 3 books with a number in the title. Yes, Janet Ivanovich. I know I mentioned this as a guilty pleasure once before. People didn't believe me. I do like the Janet Ivanovich series. Just straight up kind of bounty hunter mysteries, thrillers, I guess you would call them thrillers. With the Stephanie Plum series. Stephanie Plum is the bounty hunter. So female protagonist. And they're just fun and lighthearted, and they all start with a number. So it's 1 for the money. That was her first one. And 2 for the dough. That was her second book. 3 Get Deadly is their third book. 4 to score. High 5, hot 6, 7 up, hard 8. You get the idea. So that's the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich. Now there's a bonus question. What book are you excited to read this next year? Well, I did find one about a intentional community called Arcadia. It's by Lauren Groff, and it's a child growing up in the intentional community, and the intentional community fails, and then she goes back to like visit and revisits in her mind, I think, her relationship to that community, which is somewhat analogous to me because you may not know this, but there are a few of us kids who kind of grew up in intentional communities. I didn't, I was in and out, but I've known some kids who grew up pretty much in, for example, Twin Oaks, one of the bigger communities. And one of the problems these communities have is they're not sustainable. They are in that continually new people want to enter. In fact, the waiting lists are ridiculous. So they are popular, in case you think they're dying out. But the economically, they are, of course, always, but failing. But the kids who grow up in them don't tend to want to stay in intentional community. And that says something, I think, pretty important about a need to fix something about the intentional communities. I'm not sure if that would also be the case for kibbutz. And I know the kibbutz also have different ways of child rearing, either in groups or in family units. So I don't know about that. But anyway, in the few intentional communities that I've known, the kids have not wanted to stay on. But I'd love to read that book, Arcadia. It sounds really good. So there you go. There you have it. Those are the Rule of Threes book tag. I'm going to tag 3 people down in the box below. Cheerio.